Hey, have you ever felt like you're swinging hard, but the ball seems to keep going shorter and shorter every year? Well, I've got a secret to share with you. It's all in the hands. Maybe the most misunderstood part of the golf swing is what the hands are supposed to do through the impact zone. So today, with the help of some really cool POV angles, some pro models, and the latest data, let's see if we can't clear up the mystery so you can finally hit some longer and straighter shots. Now, if you've missed my last few videos, we've been talking a lot lately about the path of the handle and how when it's executed correctly, it provides a massive speed boost for the club head coming into the ball. Now, don't panic. I've left a link to those videos down in the description below, and we're going to do a quick recap right now. Now, first, most golfers make the handle of the club exit to either center field or even worse, right field, but instead we want to get the handle to start curving leftwards even before impact and come on around like this. The keys to doing this are going to be to better maintain your posture, get more rotation of the trunk, and throw the club around to left field instead. One of my favorite drills is to use a noodle right here in front to force me to come on around to the left. You should try it. Now, additionally, you can get the club head a nice kick of speed if the handle of the club is allowed to turn upwards abruptly in about the last 2 to 3 feet of the golf swing. Now, you can prove this by taking a stick and allowing it to pendulum, and then suddenly as it drops, pull up on it and see what happens. It swings higher because it's forcing acceleration. Now, if I do this strong enough, I can make it circle all the way over just by pulling upwards. Now, to get the handle to turn abruptly upwards as you launch the club head into the ball, this is what you should be doing with your body. First, you want to get your belt buckle about 6 inches out in front of your chin like this. And then you want to make sure that your front knee is straightening as the right knee is flexing and coming across the center line. What this does is puts the spine at a tilt and causes the left shoulder to suddenly climb upwards, pulling the handle of the club upwards with it. Now, finally, and probably most importantly, we talked about causing the handle of the club to suddenly slow down from right about the right thigh coming on into impact. The longest hitters on tour simply have the club handle slowing down the most. And I showed you what great benefit there is to replace that lousy pulling action where you get the chicken wing going and you cause this end of the stick to speed up instead of slowing down, and instead replace that with a whipping action that causes the handle to slow abruptly like a whip and causes the tip of the stick to reach massive speed. Now, this demonstration with the hula hoop will hopefully further illustrate what we're trying to do with the path of the handle. So first, the handle's got to start moving leftwards around the curve. And then right after that, you can see if it follows the curve of the hoop, it's going to start to turn upwards. In the meantime, what you're trying to do in this last 2 feet of the swing or so is abruptly slowing it down. If you look at it from this angle, we're going to go leftwards, upwards, and the whip action is going to slow it way down. Now, despite showing pro models and the latest data, some of my viewers remain unconvinced. Now, regarding slowing the handle with the pole wrapping whipping exercise, Marcel says, Steve, that just seems if you mistime it, you're going to hook the ball into somebody's backyard. Now, I want you to keep watching this video because when we talk about the action of the hands through the impact zone and put it all together, you're going to get total clarification on that. Regarding the whip action causing the club handle to slow down, John Smith says, that's not the way it works, LOL. Now, he's partially right, but try to teach a 67-year-old 19 handicap to grip the ground and reverse the torsional forces, slow the rotational velocity, and convert the angular momentum into club head speed. And do that all in the last 0.05 of a second. Yeah, no. Or instead, you could take that same golfer and tell him just to grab a stick and practice making it swoosh louder and louder, and it will teach them to do all of the things that need to be done to slow the handle. And finally, this viewer simply said, I don't believe your BS. Well, you know what? When I was listening to your keynote speech last month at the Flat Earth Convention, I didn't believe you either. Now let's take a look at two of what I think are the best swings in the world right now. First, let's look at Collin Morikawa. He gains strokes from tee to green faster than a fat kid gaining pounds at a buffet. But watch as he comes into the ball, he's applying a free release of the hands while the handle of the club goes up, left, and slows down. Now, here's the payoff frame right here. You're going to see the club shaft is going to come out below the shoulder, parallel to the shoulders, and the first thing you're going to see is the thumb and the forefinger come out before the elbow. That's how you know that he's slowed the club handle down nicely, and he's applied a free whipping action to cause the club head to go past the hands and create great club head speed while staying square to the arc. Next, let's take a look at the wonder from down under, Adam Scott. Now 45 years old, in the recent US Open, he was averaging over 125 miles per hour off the tee. This certainly gives hope to us older guys, doesn't it? Now, Adam Scott does the same thing. The handle of the club turns left, upwards, and slows down as he freely takes his hands and whips the club 180 degrees around the handle. Again, arriving at this payoff moment right here, where you can see his thumb and forefinger first. The club is coming out on plane, below the shoulder, and parallel to the shoulders. It's kind of a theme, isn't it? Now, when I'll show you the hand action that I've been very consistent with throughout my other videos, you'll see that this is the least timing dependent action that you could possibly make. And then when you do get off and your timing is off or you're having a bad day, you can see that it's going to make the smallest possible error compared to any other swing you might make. So for example, here is the typical slicer swing, and here is the well-intentioned in to out swing that creates blocking and hooking. Notice the face is wide open, and I gotta have to quickly roll the toe over to square it up to the target. Those two methods are definitely much more timing dependent. Now I want you to keep watching, because in just a minute I'm going to show you exactly when the release starts. Now the answer is crazy and you may not believe it. So all the skeptics out there, I want you to get your comments engines ready. All right, now for the money shot. Let's watch the left arm by itself come into the ball. You're going to notice I'm going to be rotating my forearm about 90 degrees in order for the club to come around and square up. Then after impact, watch as I follow the arc with the face square to the arc. My left hand is going to go into extension. So I keep going around the arc. The slow 180 degree roll of the forearm finishes. So we have 90 degrees of rotation of the forearm spurred by action at the upper arm. You can see how the handle of the club reaches its utmost outwards point at my right thigh and then starts curving left. Here now my forearm. See it start to rotate. The handle of the club is also slowing down at this point to get the club head to whip past. The forearm doesn't stop here. The wrist is going into extension or folding backwards. The elbow is tucking down into the ribs, and I'm completing a 180 degree rotation of this thumb from south to north. Now watch the right arm coming into impact. All I'm going to be doing here is extending the right elbow. There isn't any forearm rotation to be had here, but instead I'm just making the wrist go from pinned back or extended around the arc. Look how the face is square to the arc. Watch my wrist go into slight flexion like this, and it continues, and then the wrist and forearm pronates over the top in order for the club to keep moving on plane. Now, I always like to think of the hands as being a team effort. Let's take a look at that now together. The handle is already starting to move around the curve to the left. The left forearm is going to roll while the right one unleashes its energy by going from extension into flexion. Watch the club face just tracking perfectly square to the arc. Here's impact on a 9-iron with the handle about 4 inches in front of the ball. There's our nice compression and forward lean, divot location. Look at the position of the wrists here. The left wrist is kind of flat. The right wrist also kind of flat. The right elbow has not quite fully straightened yet. That's going to happen right here, 30 inches past the ball, is when both arms will be straight for the only time in the swing. The club head is tracking back around to the left, but still square to the arc. Now, you see, watch my forearm now crosses over, way over here. The club face is still square to the arc, but this is why you're not going to hook the ball into your neighbor's backyard with the action that I've been showing you in previous videos. One more time. If you'd like, you can even take the left wrist and tuck it down like this. It's still going to flap through. Here we go. Square to the arc. Release it to here, and then right forearm crosses over. Now let's watch it again from the face-on view. I've got the club in great position here. The handle is already going to start its journey leftwards and then upwards, kicking the club down and out. Watch as my forearm, right now the glove logo is facing the camera. At impact, it will be turned 90 degrees and face down the target, like that. The left wrist is going to be going from either, you can have it flat if you want, or if you want to get really fancy, you can go like Collin Morikawa or Dustin Johnson. You can have it a little bit bowed in the slot. Either way is going to work just fine. But coming through impact, you're going to be whipping that thing, throwing that thing into extension, pin back like this. And that helps throw the club, accelerate it through the impact zone. The right arm, see the elbow is bent, but rapidly straightening. The right wrist is pinned back into extension, but it's going to be rapidly flexing or throwing its energy, throwing the club head up the fairway as the elbow straightens. This is your sidearm or submarine throw feel that you're after. Of course, you'll have a few inches of forward lean. The right wrist on an iron may still be slightly bent back to create this forward lean, especially if you wanted to create a little bit more of a low trajectory shot. You might have it like this a little bit more. However, a driver is going to be more up here, and the same swing in the last 5 or 6 inches is going to come out of that angle and be more flat. It's heading into flexion like this. It'll be restricted by the left hand being on the grip like this, but right now the club is square to the arc, heading back to the inside. I'm throwing it free, doing my whipping action. And now once I get to here, you see I've gone square to square. Now the forearm is going to appear from your angle to have fully straightened and passed completely over, crossed over the folding left. Look at the left wrist and the left elbow in this position, just like you see in the swings of Adam Scott and Collin Morikawa. From this angle, this is where we have that money shot I showed you from down the line earlier. The elbow is tucked down here. Right forearm is wrapped over the top. You're going to get that club coming out below the shoulder, parallel to the shoulders, with the club face pointing right back at the down the line view. Now let's get one more angle looking from the fairway back to the tee. Now here you're going to better be able to see how this works together with the hand path. So I've got my whipping action of the wrists. extremely free and supple, no tension, no forcing. It's more of a free hinging action, the same as you would use to whip a towel or crack a whip with. Here we go. I'm in good shape here. Whether or not you want to put a little of this in there is up to you. I'm going to cover this in another video, so stay tuned. But here we go. The handle is moving left. At this point, I'm pouring on the forces, and the response is coming now. As you're going to see my right wrist start to straighten. My left arm bone is turning 90 degrees. We arrive at impact here. I'm going to be flicking with both wrists. I've arrived at a forward lean, and I've got my divot forward, so no problem here with compressing it and hitting it clean, but I'm not holding it. This is not frozen. I'm in the process of whipping this extremely free. So the wrists are moving like this. I'm now starting to pin the left wrist back, and the right wrist is starting to go into flexion like this. The club face is still square around the arc, 30 inches past. This is where both elbows, and the only time in the swing they will be straight. From this angle you can see it does not now appear that my forearms are crossing over, does it? It's more of an optical illusion from the front camera. But this left arm, my thumb is going to go 180 degrees from north to south as I go through the impact zone. And yet, the club face does not close relative to the arc. This is what a lot of people who are leaving comments on these other videos confused. Now you can hopefully understand what's going on here. Clearly, the club face is tracking with the least amount of rotation possible. And yet my thumb is rolling 180 degrees, and eventually the forearm is going to straighten and work over the top of it like this, deeper into the follow through. Notice how the elbow is in this tucked in position like I've done my pole wrapping exercises like this, and whipping the club around like that. So in this manner you can get the greatest amount of speed with the least amount of effort, and you can keep the club face tracking so beautifully that your ability to hit balls really straight goes way up. Now here's the most common exit that I tend to see with my students, which would also indicate a lot of errors in their release pattern. I will see them pulling the handle and squeezing and holding the club rather than a free wheeling action of the wrist, which leads to, of course, when they turn through, you can see the elbow is the first thing you can see. The club will end up straight up and down above the shoulder like this, and oftentimes you now see the toe also rolled over quite a bit like this. And this is because that pulling action, or if the handle of the club simply isn't curving left and upwards enough, we're going to end up like this with the face dead open. And you're going to have to introduce some kind of rolling of the shaft to keep the club from slicing, to keep the ball from slicing, so you end up looking more like this. All right, so now that you have a better understanding for the release that we're trying to make, I'm going to show you how to master it in under 5 minutes per day. Now first, for a minute or so, practice this shakeout drill where from the shoulders to the fingertips, you try to let go of all muscular tension. Like in the words of Count Yogi, get muscleless and boneless, and just let the wrists flick back and forth by the ligaments without trying to power them with muscle. There's just a lot of wiggling, a lot of suppleness, a lot of relaxation as your base. Next, practice my pole wrap drill, first with the left hand and a stick 10 times. Relax. See if you can get this thing to make a swooshing sound like I am now. Then switch it for a choked up short iron. First do the motion correctly, working on getting relaxed and supple, and then later you can start to add a little bit more speed. Then go back to the stick and do the same exercise but with 2 hands. Remember, Do not let your elbow bang against the pole. Instead, you're going to whip the head of the club or the tip of the stick around like this. Big wrist cock and big wrist cock on the other side too. Now finish up with 10 more with the short iron in both hands. Go for maximum suppleness and hold the finish for about 1 to 2 counts. So throw and hold. And don't forget, this motion does not cause you to hook the ball. I just showed you a minute ago that it causes the club head to track square to the arc. Remember that in a golf swing, halfway down, the club is going to be pointing this way. And then halfway through, the club is going to be pointing this way if it's square to the arc. That's 180 degrees of rotation of the club face relative to your target. What am I doing here? 180 degrees of rotation relative to the camera. Next, every day make 20 to 30 left arm whipping motions, hopefully with a radar, so that you can see if you are gaining speed or not. Remember, this is not a strength exercise. It does not require you to go to the gym. You're going to learn to go faster in time, and as you do, you're going to be learning how to slow the handle down kind of by reverse engineering. So 20 to 30 like this, 131 there, just warming up. I'm now able to add the body. So I'm doing the same motion as I was doing wrapping around the pole, but now I'm also using the body. So here we go, one more. And we're almost up to 150 miles an hour already. Now, if you can just get 100 miles an hour at this, you're doing pretty good. But if you're pulling this club, that was only 90 miles an hour, but I felt like I tried harder. So we're replacing the pulling action with the whipping action. Remember, supple, relaxed, muscleless and boneless from the shoulders to the fingertips. Not a pulling action, but a whipping action. And we've talked about all the different motions already. By the way, if you need a radar like this with a big display that actually calls out your number to you, then by all means check it out at my website, hititlonger.com. Now finally, do my chair drill so that you can learn how to put your newfound free whipping release around the correct hand path as you practice keeping your posture, keeping your rump back, and rotating more. Because of that, you now are set up to do your free whipping action around to left field, just like we see in the swings of Adam Scott and Collin Morikawa. That will help you get in the handle move left while you employ that free whipping release. You can also practice making the handle turn upwards while staying on the chair. Watch how I have about 6 inches of room between my left hip and the front post. Here's the 6 inches. I'm going to put the belt buckle out in front of the chin, causing the club handle to pull up with it, right in about the last foot or two of the swing. You can practice this motion and around to the left, and you can practice getting this thing to whip just like that, up and to the left, just like that. All right, now for the shocking reveal that I promised you earlier. The answer to when is the release made, and it's a lot earlier than you think it is. Check out this graph from Dr. Sasho McKenzie, one of the most well-respected golf biomechanics in the country. Now, this swing is not from some average Joe. This is actually from a multiple major winner. Now, clearly, you can see that the force that's being applied by the hands into the grip actually starts way back up here. Now, it's always preceded by the ground forces starting to ramp up and move the legs and starting to create the pivot. But the ramp up starts here, clearly. The peak forces that the hands are pushing with and pulling with are right about here. And you know, the rest of the story now is that the handle is now going to go up and left and slow down, but meanwhile, the forces that the hands are pushing into the grip, you can see by the graph, precipitously drop towards zero. It's almost as if once you have given this burst of energy that peaks right here, the hands now go into full relaxation and almost take a free ride through the impact zone, just simply responding to the force that has happened before and this upwards, leftwards, and slowing down handle path. And this is what gives you a whole ton of clubhead speed. Now I'm really going to bake some of your noodles. Imagine for a second that I'm going to isolate the swing just to the elbows and wrists, and I'm going to eliminate motion with the rest of the body and the feet. Almost every golfer on TV would look like this. Look how early that throw actually is. There's that wrap around the pole motion I've been teaching you, but in reality, it happens way back here. Now, I hear what you're saying. You're saying, I'm going to cast it and I'm going to hook it. There's no way I could time that. Remember, for the purposes of showing you, answering the question, when does the release happen? Remember, I have turned off the body and turned off kind of the heave and the turn of the pivot. Now, when you put that back in again, and I'm going to show you from this angle because it's going to make you nuts. Here is the proper release at the proper timing of the release, the what and the when. Here we go, just like that. Now, in this position, you'd say, well, Steve, you're nuts. There's no way this is actually happening. Watch what happens when I put that pivot back in now. Uh-oh. The club is coming out exactly like Adam Scott and Collin Morikawa's club. Parallel to the shoulder, below the shoulder out the armpit, with the club face pointing back at the camera. Again, evidence that the club has traveled perfectly square to the arc, but released freely with high club head speed through the impact zone. So now that you know the actions you've got to make, now you know the when. So in summary, we're looking for a free and quick whipping action around the circle. Well, the body simply provides a brace to hit against and positions us so that the handle of the club can give us benefit, increase the maximum club head speed, while also giving us some extra squaring force so that we don't have to rely on rolling the shaft of the club in order to hit the ball straight. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video all the way through. You can continue to support the channel by hitting the like button right now, leaving a comment down below, and sharing this video with another golfer who needs some distance. If you're not subscribed already, I invite you to do that and turn on your bell notifications. Head over to my website, hititlonger.com, where you're going to find hundreds of more great videos and articles that I'm sure are going to help you become a better golfer. Now, if I don't see you in the next video, which I hope I do, but if I don't, I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.